Well, as you know, CBC News has learned the Canada Revenue Agency is trying something new to ensure that wealthy people in this country pay their fair share of tax. The CRA's Postal Code Project will target 5 of the wealthiest neighbourhoods across the country, although they're not telling us which ones. Auditors will go over the filings of people living in them with a fine-toothed comb. They're looking for undeclared wealth, signs that a taxpayer is richer than they're reporting in their income tax filings. So, will this work? Joining me now by FaceTime from the Dominican Republic is Canadian tax lawyer and chartered accountant David Rotfleisch. Thanks for joining me.
My pleasure, Chris. Glad to be with you.
All right, what's your take on the CBC story today that CRA is formalizing its plan to focus attention on people living in some of Canada's wealthiest neighbourhoods?
The audit of people by postal code is nothing new. It's certainly been known to the tax profession for some time. It's an effective way for CRA to focus in on specific areas of the country. And typically, they would take a look at you and your neighbor and see if there's a large discrepancy between what your neighbor reports and what you report. And if there is, that makes your neighbor a target for audit. What they've done now is they have announced it in a more formalized basis, and that has 2 effects. Number one, it lets the public know that CRA is focusing on high net worth, high income individuals based on their residence. And it also lets the general high income earners know that they are being targeted specifically based on their geographic area. But as the story points out, they have been coy about revealing which specific communities they're going to be targeting.
Well, let me pick up on that just for a second, if I could, because you say this has been done before. Typically, with perhaps your own clients, what areas have they targeted?
Well, I haven't come across any clients who have been specifically targeted by geographic or by postal code, but there's no way that I would normally know that anyways, because if you're being audited for any number of reasons. Right. But what CRA has done before are lifestyle audits. So they look at where you live, how much income you're reporting. They'll also look at social media. Is your social media presence consistent with what your income is being reported? So they have a number of these tools they've used in the past.
I'm wondering how effective it is, because if I was wealthy and I was really just wanting to hide my income from CRA, why would I live in the most wealthy neighborhoods? I might live in a middle-class neighborhood where they're less likely to look at me.
Part of the objective is to let the general public know that high net income or high net asset individuals are being targeted by CRA. As you're probably aware, there's been a lot of negative publicity against CRA and by inference against the government as well, because of some of the proposed measures over the last number of months, including the proposed changes to small business, small farm taxation, and what could have been a minor story about administratively CRA was going to start attacking employee discounts. So if you had a submarine, after you finished work at the submarine shop, you would have to pay tax on that. So the optics of that were terrible. Then we had the recent Paradise Paper leaks, which revealed 1,700 odd Canadian names of people who have some sort of involvement with the Appleby law firm offshore. So all of these optics make it appear as if CRA is not targeting the right people.
Well, you know, this began in the summer, as I understand it. August is when the access to information request indicated they were doing this. So before Paradise, potentially before some of the negative coverage of the plans to try to tax small businesses, for example. So, but I am taking away from you that you think this is largely a public relations exercise?
No, it's partially a public relations exercise, but the other important aspect of any of these focused CRA plans, audit plans, is that it brings the public's attention to what they're focusing on. And if you are a member of the target audit group, then presumably you want to bring your house in order and you want to come clean by making a voluntary disclosure. So it has 2 effects. Number one, it lets the general public know that, hey, we're doing something about these people. And number 2, it lets these people know that they are targets and that they need to get their ducks in a row. So very recent.
Tell me
Go
from
ahead.
previous experience, to what extent has this kind of program produced results? In other words, have they identified people who have then been forced to pay more taxes than they had before?
So, two different issues. For example, I was about to say that CRA recently had a court order against PayPal requiring PayPal to reveal the names of all business account holders from January 1st, 2014 to like a week or so ago when they got the court order 2 weeks ago. So my office was flooded and still is with potential clients saying, we want to get our tax filings in order. There was a similar campaign against eBay about 3 or 4 or 5 years ago against power sellers. Again, eBay power sellers were coming out of the woodwork. So when these types of proposals are announced, people who are offside take notice and do come clean. Now, in terms of audit results, sorry?
No, go ahead. In terms of audit results?
In terms of audit results, that's a very different matter. CRA gives you statistics about how effective their audits are, but those results are not necessarily correct because some of them are based on anticipated savings if the audit goes ahead and if it's not challenged and if it's correct. And a lot of CRA potential assessments are wrong, and that's why I fight them, and often we are successful. So the results are not entirely clear. However, there are two types of audits. There is a general type of audit and there's a targeted audit. So the most recent high-profile targeted audit that you may have heard of is the condo project. So what CRA does is it goes to a condo developer, it says, give me the list of everybody who purchased a condo from inception. Some of these people may have sold the paper, may have closed, may not have closed, but it's an easy and good method for CRA to audit. So they take a look at the condo purchasers, they see what the results are. Does the condo purchaser still own it? Have they sold it? If they've sold it, have they declared the income?
Okay.
So that's a very focused audit, and that's very, very effective. It takes fairly low amount of audit resources, and it has fairly high results.
All right.
So they're saying you live in this neighborhood. I mean, one of the examples given in the news story was you live in Bridle Path. So you live in the Bridle Path. Are you declaring a lot of income? So certainly people are going to be declaring a lot of income if they live there. If somebody has no income, that's probably a very good audit target. However, people who are declaring a reasonable amount of income, and what's reasonable if you live in that area, I don't know. 500,000, a million, 2 million, I don't know what the number is. CRA may have stats, they can come up with the average income, and if you depart from that average income for people in the bridle path, then that makes you a target. If you're at the average, are you going to be audited? I would say that's a bad use of audit resources, but then I'm not making the audit determination.
All right. David Rotfleisch, thank you very much for your time today. It's interesting. Thank you.
My pleasure.